I've co-founded a company called Stack. And I'm excited to spend the next half an hour or so chatting through some of the sales fundamentals as part of the Female Techpreneur Bootcamp or a day, I should say, Saturday. So really what I was hoping to do is I was planning on talking for the next 15 to 20 minutes or so around some of the sales fundamentals. And then I was going to open it up to any questions. But before I start, one of the things I was going to ask, is there anything specific that anyone is really wanting to make sure that I touch on around sales fundamentals and questions or a situation that you're in, just so that as I go through the fundamentals, I'll make sure that I gear it towards any thoughts or problems or anything in the sales space that you want me to cover. It would be great if you let me know up front, and if not, I can go through specific questions for the last 10 minutes or so. So I'll just double check if anyone has anything that they want to mention up front before I jump in. No? Okay, no problem. I'm going to jump straight in. So as I mentioned, I co-founded a company called Stack, and my co-founder is based in the States. And the reason that we founded Stack is because we found that working with founders and CEOs of startups and medium-sized businesses, they all had a very good understanding of what they were doing in terms of either their skill set was building a product because they saw that there was a space in the market, or they sold a service and they were very, capable at delivering that service. But the sales skill is a skill within itself. And a lot of people in a founder position were saying, we have this great idea, we know how to talk about it, we understand the space that we're in, but we really need help on how we ultimately sell and how we scale. So I started my career quite a while ago, initially first a big corporate, and then I worked at Morgan Stanley, and then I worked for an institution that only sold into the top 10 investment banks. So have been very used to very long and all in sales capacities, managing big teams and sales capacities. And in all of those roles, selling to all different types of companies. So from smaller, quicker sales right the way through to sales of that, with 3 to 5 year deals and very large sums of money. But what I came down to across all of that experience was that sales can work in a similar way and is process driven every single time. And so very specifically, the last 7 or 8 years, my co-founder and I worked for an accelerator and worked for a consulting company that worked only with startups. And it was really out of that role that Stack, in terms of what we've built, and we've built software that underpins this, but that's not important for today. That's kind of where all of this information came out of, and where we came up with, let's just get out there with something that helps people understand the really basic part of sales and helps to make it easier. Now, traditionally, we've worked with B2B companies, and I know today there's a mixture of people on the call. Some are B2C, some are B2B. But the majority of those fundamentals remain the same and remain consistent. And what we're going to talk about is ultimately, oh, sorry, go ahead. Oh no, is ultimately, if you understand and can communicate who you're targeting and how you're doing it, the startup space is amazing in terms of networking capability. Everyone wants to network and everyone wants to be able to help. But to be able to really use the people in the way that they want to be able to network properly, you need to know what you're asking them and you need to know what you're telling them, which is what the fundamentals we're going to talk about today. The other thing is, because we only have a little bit of time, some of this is going to be quite theoretical, which is both good and bad. So we also have some practical tips and some practical templates that we have available that if you're interested in talking later, we will just send you those over as part of this conversation. Because it's all very well us talking about theoretical things, but actually what you want more than anything is the practical, how do we do this and how do we help you? So if I just go on to the next, I don't know why it keeps doing that, next slide, there we go. So if I just take 5 minutes to talk through a couple of our fundamentals, the first thing that we talk to all of our clients about, and anyone that we're talking to about in terms of helping them with their sales skills, is the client or the prospect's time is the most important thing. And if you have that as a baseline for every interaction that you have with a company that you're selling to, a person that you're selling to, then it means that you're going to prepare as accurately as possible and as thoroughly as possible to make sure that what you're talking to them about is valuable to both you and to them. So leading on from that, we talk a lot about disqualification. And as I go through these, when we go through workshop, I always say, if anyone disagrees, I'd love for you to raise your hand and ask me why and push me to explain that further. Because some of these concepts, people go, oh, well, I don't know about that. And actually, it's as part of the discussion of us going through it that either you'll convince me that I'm wrong, or then other people will think, oh, yeah, I had thought a similar thing, and we can kind of iron it out together. So the second point on here is all around disqualification. And more than anything, I would say this is a B2B, a bigger B2B problem than it is a B2C. Whereas an individual, when you're selling to the direct consumer, people are a lot more quick to say no to things, and they are pretty good at giving a reason. But on a B2B level, there are lots of examples where clients of ours or companies that I've worked with say, you know what, we've spent 3 months working with this company and this many hours, and we thought we were good to go. And then something has fallen over. And a lot of the time when we dig into it, it's because the qualification around, should you be talking to that person? Are they ready to buy? And are they ready to buy your product? Hasn't happened up front and as directly as possibly it could have happened, which ultimately would have saved time. And it means if you can disqualify people quickly, you can also qualify people. So you can be filling your pipeline quicker to progress faster. The third one is something that I certainly learned the hard way, which is that you're a peer to everyone that you're selling to. And it kind of goes a little bit with the next couple of bullet points, which is when you walk into a room and you are selling your product, your service, anything that you have built, if you walk in saying, you know what, I know how valuable this is that I'm trying to provide. And so I'm able to articulate why it's valuable from the top down. So not starting with, look at my product, this product is great and shiny, or look at this service that I'm providing. It's taking it from a business outcome standpoint of, this is how it will help you, this is how it will help your business. And because you've disqualified, you understand what their priorities are. And in those next meetings, as you get from that initial qualification through to a sale, you're marrying all of those ideas constantly. I know what you want to achieve as a business. I know what I'm able to provide through a product or service or whatever it might be, and closing that gap. And if you walk in thinking, I am a peer, I'm capable, it means you start the conversation from a different level than going in thinking, oh, I'm a vendor, or I'm not quite at that level. You don't have the same amount and the right amount of confidence. And there's a line here. There can be overconfidence and underconfidence. But if you go in with that mentality of, I'm going to ask you questions to really understand what you want to achieve with as a business or as a consumer, and I'm going to see if I can marry my services to what you need. And a quick one here, which goes back to a quick no is almost as good as a yes, is if you don't have something that is in their top priorities, you have the confidence then to walk away and say, now is not the right time for you or for me. Because if you continue down that path and you just kick the can down the road constantly, you'll find that you're not closing those deals at the end because you haven't adopted a number of those thoughts. So the one below that, finding the right client is like a marriage. What are the chances? It's a tough thing, right? And it's okay to understand that there are lots of reasons why you selling your product or service or whatever it might be at that time isn't the right thing. And knowing that that's okay and being able to walk away allows you to focus on opportunities that will come to fruition. So the one below is kind of what I started out at, which is selling to massive companies, massive corporations, and selling, baking cakes and selling it within your local community. A lot of the fundamental building blocks remain the same. And the piece that Stack has really taken on board and pushes, with quite a lot of vigor, is that in a lot of people's heads, a salesperson historically has looked a certain way, has had a number of types of attributes, has spoken in a certain way, has been hugely confident. And what I would advocate is everybody is a salesperson, because sales can be learned and it's process driven. So if you have the right process, the right understanding, ask the right questions, every single person you could put in front of me could become a good, healthy, positive salesperson that's results driven. So before I just jump on to the next bit, because I know I've probably talked for 8 or 9 minutes straight, does anyone have any questions or want to challenge me on any of this piece?
Alex, you just said anyone can be a salesperson.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I can't. I can't sell to save my own life.
Interesting. So why not?
I just think it's like you're trying to force something down people's throats. If they want it, they can come and find you, can't they?
True. So I would go back to, I think what I'm hearing you say is not that you're not a salesperson, it's that you might not have the confidence to ask the questions up front from the disqualification standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
So it's asking those questions to really understand, is that person ready to buy? Because there is so much out there, right? Look at, with especially now, right, as everything has gone virtual, and we live in a world of an overload of information, and there are always new things coming up and new ways of doing things. And so yes, people will look, once you're established, people will look and they will find you. But in the beginning of getting established, what you have to be able to do is understand what you're building and what value you're providing, and then be able to marry that to what people need. And the way of doing that is by asking really good questions as part of your conversation to understand, are they right, yes or no? And if you had that bank of questions that says, to sell my product, or in your case, to sell your service, to sell this networking ecosystem idea, if I understood the same information about everyone that was coming to me, I would be able to understand if actually they were ready to be part of this ecosystem or not. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And I think Esther is agreeing with you. She said, I agree that anyone can be a salesperson. It has to do with the passion coming across. I learned a lot about that in recruitment.
Yeah, exactly. And recruitment's a really good example. The next half an hour or so. Sorry, I didn't hear that. Oh no. So a recruitment's a really good example. And the reason I think that that's a good example is because a lot of people are shy or are maybe quieter about asking questions around budget and pricing. And that's where I think people go, oh, no, I'm not a salesperson. I can't quite ask that. Whereas recruitment, you have to ask salary expectations up front, as that is a natural disqualifier. And it's one of the easiest places to do that, because as you're going for another role and as recruiters, it's a very, very standard question. So any of the nervousness around talking around pricing and money and revenue and those things fly out the window, because within that space, it's just a natural thing. So exactly in that situation where you're talking about recruitment, you have to disqualify up front. Imagine if you put 50 candidates in front of one of your clients that none of them were appropriate, the client would say, well, I'm never going to use you as a recruiter again because you haven't disqualified properly. And salary is just one of those things.
Right.
So it's a perfect example of where that works. And it's maybe a little bit more culturally open to be able to do that.
Yes.
I feel like we can work together, Vuki, to get you going. No, I can absolutely be a salesperson, because if I target this audience, if I ask these questions, if I do this, I'm going to get people that come through into my ecosystem.
Makes sense.
Yeah. All right.
It takes a bit of training though, doesn't it?
Sorry?
It takes a bit of training.
Yeah, it absolutely does. It takes training and it takes repetition, and it also takes a framework, right? So we have lots of questions lots of our clients say to us, you know what, we're two founders and we need to hire a head of sales, right? Whether this is a third hire to our company or sometimes it's the second hire to our company. We really want to hire a salesperson. What do we do first? Hire the salesperson or figure out our sales process? Now, our answer being Stack, because we this is what we do, we say, figure out your sales process before you hire the person into it. Because if you understand that process, then someone comes in and it's about you getting everything. A lot of this is in people's heads. A lot of this information is in a founder's head because you have so much passion for what you're building and so much belief and a very specific skill set about what you're building and what you're selling and all of those sorts of things. But as you need to ask other people to help you, either in the form of investment or in the form of I need to hire someone, or in the form of networking because you want to be introduced to another company or person or anything like that, things can't live in your head anymore. They have to be in a position, in a presentation, not necessarily in just a presentation, because I love PowerPoint, but I don't think it solves every problem in the world. But you have to be able to articulate it really, really clearly and very concisely. And then investment is easier, hiring is easier, networking is easier, because you have all of those things at your fingertips. And it's why ultimately we built a digital product. Stack is a digital product that clients use to house all this information, so that you have somewhere where you go, this doesn't live in my head, it doesn't live on all disparate pieces of paper, but I can say, look, this is my process, and people can pick it up and use it and execute against it.
That's so cool. Rufiat put her hand up. I think she has a question.
Yes,
Rufiat? Do you have a question?
Even if you want to just chat it in the chat box, Buki, I'm wondering if you could read them out if people want to just type them versus ask them.
Okay, I think she's ready to talk now. Rufiat? Okay, or you can just type it in the chat box. Okay, let's do that.
Okay. Shall I wait a second, or do you want me to keep going?
Once she's written it, I can read it out.
Perfect. All right. So I've kind of outlined our fundamental building blocks that we have that underpin everything around sales. And then there are really three key things that we do next. The first one is, at a high level, define what your business success looks like. And I'm not going to talk about that one today because that's a 3 or 4 hour workshop completely on their own. But as I go through these three key phases, and I'm just going to go through the second one today in a couple of minutes, is always stepping back and thinking a couple of things. Start top down, which is really hard. It's the hardest way to do things. So look at, in the future, what does success look like? And by stepping back, it allows you to think, where do we want to head and how are we going to funnel everything into where we're headed? Because it will impact the decisions you then ultimately make on a daily or a weekly or a monthly basis of what are we going to do today, right? Being a founder is hard and is lonely sometimes, especially if you're a one-person shop. And there are times you need to be really reinvigorated and lifted up. And if you can remind yourself what success looks like and where you're pointing to, being able to get through some of that founder fatigue and that loneliness becomes a little bit easier. So define company goals and strategy is a big piece for you to think of. What does success look like? The second piece is, what does my ideal client or an ideal partner look like? And how do I really define that? The third piece is, and how do I build my sales cycle and process to support all of that? Has the question come through yet, or should I just jump into this ideal clients?
Carry on.
Okay, perfect. So I know I've got another, I think, minutes.
There's a question there, Alex. Or is it a question? How you set the sales funnel for service-based like mine on online business for a specific niche that provides networking opportunity. We have some branded merchandising. Okay, it's just a comment, Kelly, isn't it? Thanks. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So freemium versions. So I agree. Talking about it's an online. So are you're a B2C SaaS type company?
Yeah.
Yeah.
B2C. Yeah.
Yeah. So absolutely. A lot of businesses use a freemium model. And the key to that, and it's funny, so I've had a week of talking about freemium models with a couple of clients. It's a really good comment because I feel like I've really talked pricing and freemium models to death this week. It's a great way of acquiring clients. And the key to that is then how do you upsell them from there, right? It's a really good way to build out your lead generation platform and your lead generation piece, and then growing from there. So absolutely. So as I talked about, we have setting company goals, we have defining clients and partners, and the third one is around actually building your sales cycle and what that looks like. So there are three different ways that you can really look at defining your ideal client. The first one is the addressable market. So what does that look like? How many people are within it? What do they currently spend? What does the competition look like? The second one, which at Stack we dig into really deeply, especially on a B2B level, is the client profile. What do they look like? What size are they? What country? And the next slide will give you a little bit more information on that. And the third one, which is the B2C model, which probably, Kelly, for your opportunity, is who am I targeting? What is that person? Where are they? Is there an age bracket that they sit within? Do they have very similar likes and interests? And really being able to define that so that you can market towards those really effectively. I think if you can take anything away from this slide, which actually probably I should put on the top, which isn't there, which is if you turned around to me and said, Alex, the entire, like the market is my opportunity. The UK is my opportunity. I would be saying that actually, although it sounds very open and very freeing, I would say that's a problem. Because if you can go after everything and you feel that the market is wide open, as a future opportunity, great, progress into all of those different pieces. But for where you're sat at the moment, and for most places, for most businesses, if you can't define who you're going after, it's really difficult to make decisions on where you spend your time, where you spend your money, how you deploy any resources that you have at your disposal to be able to capture those. And so in a place, especially in startups, which are lonely, which I know I've mentioned, and which there are days where you think, oh my gosh, I have so much to do that spans so many different so many different categories of things that I could possibly do. You won't know where to start if you also feel that the opportunities are endless. So really getting down and defining those three: addressable market, your client profile, so what the business that you would look like targeting if you're a B2B business, or the persona for the B2C businesses that are on the line. And then I'll just give you as a last piece before I say any questions, because I realize I've talked an awful lot, which is a bit of a bad habit, is this last slide, which is when we talk about really considering how you define and how you narrow your space. This list isn't exhaustive, but it's an example of how you could look to limit the market that you're going after. So you could look at them by size, by position. One that I think, again, is very B2B focused, but actually produces some real results is reputation. So if you're a B2B startup, look at, do you need to sell to companies that are used to buying from startups? Because if you're going into a very big organization that have no innovation team, that have no entrepreneurial spirit, have never bought from a startup, it's a very different type of sale. So looking at all of these types of things, do these companies like to buy technology? Do they like to buy services? Do they buy people, or are they very, very tech savvy? And so understanding all of those things, it means when you're going to the next network event, if you can say, do you know any companies or any people that are interested in this benefit that you're able to provide and that look like this, you'll find that the amount of positive introductions that you're able to have that actually deliver you results and you're able to generate revenue off of are significantly higher. So I think I will stop, and because I know we're actually at time, and any questions, I'm happy to take anything, even if it's, I haven't touched upon it at all in this last half an hour, but people have questions on anything.
On this particular slide, are you able to give like a real life scenario or a case study?
Yes. So like now live, or as, because what we have is a template that is filled out across all of these. So I could send that round as a follow-up that has, you know, all the different categories and how we would look at defining them in there. So I can do either or both.
Okay, it would just be good to get a flavor of how one can do this with definition.
Yep.
Okay, I think someone else is asking the same question. How can we gather this information?
Yeah. So it's looking, it depends where you're at as a company. So I would say if you haven't generated any revenue and you haven't ever sold to anybody, then it's very theoretical. And I would be saying, and I can send around a template for people that will help kind of bring this to life out of the theory. So if they haven't sold anything and they don't have any revenue, it's what is the problem that you're solving and who do you think is going to buy? That's what this is saying. Who will buy what you are selling as a product or a service or whatever it is, and really defining that. So as an example, I might say, I'll use Stacks as an example for the company that we run. So we have a couple of different channels to market that we sell through. So if I take our B2B, very direct strategy, we sell to seed, Series A, Series B funded clients in Europe and the States. And they don't necessarily have to have any revenue. They don't have to have any clients, or they could have we have a couple of clients up to, you know, quite a sizable size, being as we go to Series B. So we say from $0 to $100 million in revenue, that they have a founder and a CEO, and that they have to have a belief that they have to understand the importance of metrics. So that one's a much softer side of things. So as I go through all of those different pieces, I've touched geography, I've touched size, I've touched how they're funded. For us, number of employees doesn't matter. Number of physical locations doesn't matter. But so one of our channels in certain situations, I can say to an accelerator or at a conference, talk to me about how your business is structured. Talk to me about how you're funded. Talk to me about where you operate. Talk to me about your current sales process. And in asking those 5 questions, I've just answered all of my profile to understand, do I think that they could fit Stack or not? Does that help answer the question?
Seema, does that help? We have another question. How can we, sorry. Yes, Seema says she's fine with that. So, what is the best approach to sell a subscription model direct to customer?
Say that again, sorry.
What is the best approach to sell a subscription model direct to customer?
Yeah, so I would be saying what kind of model are you? I feel like I'd have some follow-up questions. So what is the best way to sell to a subscription customer? Is that the question?
Sorry, what is the best approach?
Yep.
Do you have the spreadsheets, Alex? Do you have it to hand?
I don't have the spreadsheet to hand.
Okay. So what we'll do, we'll send the template that Alex put together, and that will guide us. We can use that to kind of do our persona profiling.
Yep.
All these questions based on what we ask our clients. Am I correct, Alex? Then we can drop them into those segments, and then we can do the profiling, can't we?
So I can absolutely send that as a follow-up. I would say the best approach to selling a subscription directly to clients, so B2C, as I think I understood the question, is define exactly who your customer is. So who is going to buy that subscription and why would they buy it? And then once you understand those very clear questions, why would they buy what you're selling? And who are they that typically buy? And if you don't know, at this point, make it up and test it. So come up with a theory. So if you don't have any clients already on there, figure out a way, because then what you can do is figure out the best marketing strategy to be able to do that. So certain people, certain types of profiles will buy better from LinkedIn. Some will buy better from Facebook ads. Some will buy from you attending conferences or very specific things within your market. But unless you have a theory, if you don't have any clients, and if you do have any clients that have bought, profile them, look at who they are, and really figuring out what has made them buy. And then you marry what's the benefit of what you're doing with that person that has already bought or you believe is going to buy, and then you market to them appropriately. I hope that answers that specific one. For some reason, I can't see the chat box anymore. I don't know where I've put it.
Oh, she said yes.
Okay. Brilliant. So I know that I'm over time. Is there anything else I can answer for anybody or help with anything?
So you said something about, some of the clients that you work with, some of them don't have any revenue at all. Mm-hmm. So what is the input that Stack is doing for them? Are you trying to kind of put together the revenue plan or? Mm-hmm.
So the ones that don't have any revenue at all, the one thing that they do have that we work with them is they have some level of funding. So that is, I would say, is probably one of the things that we look at. But one specifically, so I'll talk about a new one that we've got earlier this week that has just come on board, and we've just run the second session with them. We did exactly this, but we got their ideal client profile on paper and really figured out and really deep. And then we said, great, now how are you going to sell to them? And within a couple of hours had built up their first level of what their sales process looks like, so that when they are in a position that they can sell, because they're building, they're building a software product. When their software product is built in the next 6 weeks, that they can engage their prospects in a very different way and in a way that they feel that they can accurately plan what their revenue is. So the next stage is now mapping revenue against that and mapping timelines against that.
Thank you, Alex. So one of the things I discussed with Alex was if we have enough people in the community, we can kind of get some sort of subscription of Stack. It's an amazing product. I mean, I've seen the demo of it, and it will change the trajectory of our businesses. So if anyone is interested, just IM me, or we can catch up later on. And then if we go in as a group, we get a better deal. Is that correct, Alex?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you ever so much. Thank you. I don't have any more questions. And I don't know if anyone's got any question before we move on.
Oh, that's great. Thank you very much for all your time. It was really nice to meet you. And yeah, good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. You're a star. Thank you. So I'll get back to you, and we will be sending the templates to do that persona profiling. We'll be sending that across following this session. And of course, like I said, if we go in as a group to get that service, it will be amazing to have all our sales profile, revenue, everything defined in a dashboard that we can just click on, and all the information will be there. Okay. So we've got, moving on the agenda now, the next activity is investment option for startups. Yay. I'm really, really interested in that because I need funding to do all this fantastic stuff we've been hearing all day. So I'm waiting for, I don't know if he's signed on yet, Andy Davis, who's going to be taking us through that. And then that will start at 1:30. And then we have a break at 2 for 10 minutes. And we move on to the pitch session, which is all our, I wasn't sharing my screen. Maybe I can do that actually. You can see the agenda. And then we can get all our founders to present their pitch, and we can get a winner today. That'll be interesting. And I'll talk more about female tech now that we're waiting for Andy to join us. For some of us that don't know, we are a membership-led organization. So we're about education, Startup Academy, for example, this bootcamp and every other thing that we do. We're about creating a talent hub where we can deliver solutions, tech solutions, and also our membership is about networking, coaching, mentoring, collaboration, working hand in hand together as a team. And also we try to be the interface between the investors and the founder, making sure that there is a strategic match, and also that the founders are well looked after and they get the best possible options out there. We run this, we actually have 2 events per month. One is our networking, which is every second Tuesday of every month. We get together, we just network, people dial in from different locations. It's just opportunity for us to market our business, get the word out there. And also we try to do a webinar per month as well, which is every 4th Tuesday of the month. So we pick a topic that we'd like to learn more about and help each other out that way. And we have a lot of things that we do. We have partners within the community. We have people that leverage and pass referrals to each other. And basically it's all about empowerment. It's all about creating that platform for like-minded women to actually connect. And that is what we're about empowering women, creating wealth, building ourselves up, showing role models that the younger ones can actually follow and see that they too can be even more than what some of us have achieved. So that is what we do. And if you're not following us on social media, you can find out more about events and what we do literally by I'm just trying to show that on the slides. I hope you cannot see it. So that's our Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn pages, whichever one works best for you. That way you can get first-hand information about us. We'd also like to take your feedback on the speakers and even the event in itself. So we'll send that out to yourself following this session. If you could just please reply back to that. That helps us to know what we've done better, what we can do better, and how we can improve and things like that. And don't keep it to yourself. Try and invite your friends. Let them know about us, how good we're doing. And Andy's joined us now, so I'll stop rabbiting on. Hello, Andy.
Hey, sorry about that. How you doing?
No, that's right. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for honoring this call. I mean, really appreciate it. And we're looking forward to learning from you how we can get our startup. Well, there's a mix here. There's some people that are already, they've started. They're not startups. They're doing well. They're looking to scale. And then we have the ones that are just starting. So it's a combination of both.
Sure. So, it'll be helpful for me. Whilst I'll share my screen and show you some stuff. It'll be great. It would be great if you can just put a link, if you've got a startup already, put a link into the startup in the chat, and I can have a look at the businesses and stuff. I'll take a look afterwards, and I'll take a look during as well, probably. So put in I would say put in like a link and like one line on what it is, just like a few words on like what the business is, and I'll do that. Thanks. So I'll share screen.
So bear in mind that, Andy, after this, we're going to have a 10 minutes break, yeah? And then we go into the pitch section in itself. So we've got four founders that will be presenting from there onwards. And a gentleman called Christian will be joining us as well.
That's cool.
That pitch.
Yeah. So
I've made you a co-host now, so you've got the floor.
Cool, thank you. So let me share my screen. So perfect. Share screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. So hey everyone, I'm Andy Davis. I'm an angel investor and a co-founder of a group called 10x10. And 10x10 is a group of black founders, early stage black founders, and a group of all the black VCs in the UK, venture capitalists. And those venture capitalists are investors who invest with investment funds, usually investing in businesses as they grow and scale really quickly, and with usually the aim to get to about 100 million to £1 billion or dollars in value. So I'll talk to you a little bit about myself and run through investment options for founders and startups. So I'm from a place called Barking. Barking is like far East London. Just at the end of East London is East Ham, and then you've got Barking, which is like the first Essex borough. So I grew up in Barking. Big fan. I think I'm not going to sell Barking, but everyone should move to Barking at some point in their life. I moved from Barking recently to Docklands. I'm moving back, and I just love Barking. I'm very much like a product of my environment. I think a lot of people have like a great hustle in Barking, and and promising things for a lot of people. So I've been a founder my whole life, and now an investor. So I don't know, I can't remember how many businesses I've set up. So I've like set up a lot of businesses and made a lot of mistakes, had like a lot of wins along the way as well, which is good. I started in the game probably about 12 years ago, something 11, 12 years ago. And so gone from having things in my head to talking to customers, to getting first versions out of that product or service to solve the problem for them, then getting some resource in the form of investment and teams together, getting a product out to the market, getting it used here, internationally, different places, making mistakes, getting some wins, and did that for some time. And I then became an investor 3 years ago, I think, or about 2.5 years ago or so, and have been investing in startups since, and mostly black founder startups. And I'll talk you to a few of them now. So investment, I just want to get something out of the way actually first. It isn't like Dragon's Den, right? There's this assumption that you're doing these deals, there's a typo there, £80,000 for 40%. It's more like £8,000 for 40%. But like, there's this assumption that this what it's like, deal done. And actually it just isn't the case. It's nothing like that. It's more along the lines of this. So here's the amount I was investing last year into Black-owned startups, about $100,000 for 5%, right? So you watch channels, then they'll go and they'll pitch and they'll say, hey, we're looking for 100,000 for 20 or 30%, 20%. And then they'll end up doing a deal, shaking hands on like 40%, 45, 50% of the business. That's just not how things work out in the real world. It's more closer to this. And this, but again, this is for like very specific types of businesses. This is for like businesses which can grow and scale really quickly and get to 100 million or a billion in value. So I'm going to run through some examples of some businesses I've invested in. I invested in a business called Trim It, which is an Uber for haircuts. So you open up the app, you make a booking with a barber, and you get what we call a 12-star hair experience. And we're changing the game when it comes to starting with haircuts, but we're not a hair business. What we are is a time efficient business. And because of how we master time and efficiency, we do a great job of delivering phenomenal haircuts to customers around London for now. And you see Trim It around, hopefully you recognize one of our vans. Just spread the word. And I use their products every day. I invest in a business called Afrocentrics, which is hair care products for Black and mixed people or people with Afro and curly hair. Run by two phenomenal women, Joycelyn and Rachel. Been going for about 10 years. I met them 3 years ago. I invested last year. So we spent a year getting to know each other and seeing what would go. I was helping them with some parts of the business. And then I eventually invested, and we're now very, very good friends. We're going to dinner this evening. We're really close with our family, and that just comes from having a great relationship way before anything transactional happened regarding money. And that's a note for everyone here. If you want to talk to investors, it's about building relationships as well, and becoming good friends and getting to know each other, because the relationship's going to be a long-term play. Rachel, Joycelyn, and I plan on spending the next 10 years together plus, or the rest of our lives together. And the rest of our lives with Afrocentrics. I'll run through the rest quickly. Invested in something called Galdem, which is an online magazine with content written by Black women and non-binary people, and invested in a founder called Liv Little, incredible founder, now run by a CEO called Mario, and just a phenomenal team of writers. You can see most of the team in that shot there. So invested in media business. Last two, Vitae London, a watch brand, Black-owned watch brand, supporting education in sub-Saharan Africa, run by a founder called Will. And then this is a Kenya-based company actually. And this company is like a Shazam for lung infection. So you cough and the audio detection determines if you have a respiratory disease or infection. So people are working on deep technology as well. So the scope of founders is quite wide. But here are some examples of businesses I invested in. So let me talk to you about investment options. So right now I'm doing investments of $10,000 to $50,000 or so for about 1% to 3% of businesses. So invest in really, really early stage as an angel investor. So a lot of people go and meet investors, and I'm going to talk to you how you meet them and where they are. And there's expectation that, oh, they don't want to invest in my business, they don't like me. I've had some founders complain to me yesterday that some other investors rejected them and they were like, oh, they were taking it personally. I said, I've been there. I was a founder for many, many years, for about 10 years. You don't take it personally. It's a numbers game. Even for me, I invest in 0.8% of the businesses I see. So every month I'll meet 120 companies. I'll have a second meeting with 10 of them. I'll do due diligence, which is like just checking that everything they've told me is correct about the customers, about their data, about how the product and service works. And then I'll end up investing in one of them. That's a 0.8% success rate every single month. And that's the max of my capacity. So remember, it's never personal. It's just about the business, and it's a numbers game, and it has to align. And it doesn't mean that you wouldn't invest. If someone doesn't invest in you, it doesn't mean it's a closed door today. They may invest in you tomorrow. Like my latest investment this week is a good friend of mine who had a business many years ago as well. I had one last year, he pitched me, I didn't invest. Had one years ago, which I was helping him with, I wasn't investing then. And it happened to be his third business, which I invested in. And we're planning to go all the way with this business. So it isn't about rejection. It's just about, there's a few elements such as the numbers, the law of numbers, it being the right time for the investor and yourself, of course, and maybe the business that has to be the right fit. So the right investor, there's a few factors to it. There's stage, and stage means where you're at. So if you have an idea, if you've got a first version of the product or service, if you've got a lot of customers, if you're at growth stage where you've got a team, you're building things out, if you're going international, there are different stages of business, of course, and you have to find an investor who's at the right stage for you. Like, I'm really, really good in the early stage. Well, I think I'm best in the early stages for my founders. And time will tell if I've been good or not. But but I feel I'm best in the early stage. So I've built a lot of things myself. I've got them off the ground. I've built teams. I've taken things international. I understand what it's like going from idea to X point. So I like that. I like that space. I work quite a lot. So like I spend a lot of time very deeply understanding things. So in the early days, I'm very good with hiring and products and customers. And I think that's a skill set for the early stage. As you grow, a lot more is about management. I'm good there as well, but I do enjoy the early stage. So as an investor, that's where I'm best fit. So if you're an early stage founder, you should talk to investors who are best at your stage of business. The sector is really important. So you want to find investors who invest at your stage, invest in your sector, sorry. So if you're in, let's say, telecoms, you want to find a telecoms investor. If you're in media, you want to find investors who understand the media space or have experience there. Like hair and beauty, I get approached by a lot of hair and beauty startups because I've invested in Afro Essentials, like hair care products. I invested in Trimit, the Uber for haircuts. I invested in something called Beauty Stack, which is an app to book on beauty services and now to book other events as well. And I may invest in something called New Fade, which is a hair loss replacement solution. So solving like men going bald and solving for that. So I happen to be like the black leading hair and beauty investor for now in the UK, and that should hopefully change, which have more people come along. But I understand the space quite well. I'm a good fit. I invested in a bunch of other things, deep technology as well, and a lot of consumer apps and e-commerce businesses. So I understand those spaces quite well. So you want to find someone who understands your space in the sector you're in quite well. Investment size. So if you're like I had a call on Thursday and someone pitched to me and they spent an hour pitching it, then they said, oh, I'm looking for £2,500. But I was like, well, it's what I invest. I can't even invest that little, right? So, or that amount, because it's a lot of money still. But you have to find people who do invest the size that you're looking for as well. Some investors will invest significantly more. Like my investors invest anything from like 1 million minimum. So if you went to them to look for £50,000, they wouldn't be able to give it to you. So you want to find investors who invest at the amount that you're looking for, the size as well, the stage you're at for your business. And then of course, I spoke to a bit when it comes to experience, but when sector, you want to find people who have the relevant experience for you, either building a similar business to you, worked in that sector, understand the market quite well. The experience is important because it will help you avoid mistakes and grow successfully. Where to find investors, the magical question, right? So I think there's a few things. One is an intro to investors is always useful. So if you know someone who knows the investor, clearly that's hard, that's network. It's about building the network as well. Email means cold email, by the way, so I should change that, but it means cold email. So if you cold email me, I'll get back to you, right? Like it takes me a long time to get through emails because there's quite a lot. But cold email, I think, can work. The email has to be good. What I would advise is that it's really succinct and it's short. People really waffle on emails. I don't want to see any paragraphs in any emails I read. That's just because I look at it, I'm like, I'll get to it later. I never get to it. And then by the time I open it, I'm like, oh, why did someone send me a paragraph? Someone sent me like 3-4 paragraphs and I don't even know them. It's kind of like, what's going to make me read this over reading something else that just gives me information really quickly and helps me make a decision as to whether or not we should take a meeting or helps me understand what you need so I can best deliver for you. LinkedIn, I personally, I don't hate LinkedIn. I personally find LinkedIn a bit hard because it's a bit spammy and I am one of the people who just happen to get quite a lot of noise on LinkedIn and a lot of inbound. So I don't think LinkedIn is a great website product wise because it's a bit confusing. Like I get requests and then you get messages and then you get messages with requests and it's just a bit hard to deal with. So but everyone's different. Everyone who messaged me on LinkedIn, I tend to migrate them to email and manage it there. So I do take long to get to LinkedIn though, but I'm doing LinkedIn tomorrow, for example. So you mentioned LinkedIn, I'll see it tomorrow. Twitter and IG. So this is actually probably in a bit of the wrong order. I put in an order of what works for like investors mostly. Twitter and IG work well for me. IG first and Twitter secondly. Twitter because there's a lot of like random messages by random people who want to connect, just like a bit like LinkedIn. But Insta, I think it's a bit more personal. I can actually, before I even message back or whatever, I can see your account, I can see what you're up to, I can see some of the product or service, I can see like some content you put out, whatever it is. And actually, matter of fact, someone even DM'd me last week, and I know someone DM'd me on Twitter, someone followed me on Twitter last week, and I followed back, and he DM'd me and said, "Oh wow, I'm really happy you followed me." He was like, "Oh, but I checked, you're following all these people, so maybe it doesn't matter. You just follow me back. You're not paying attention or something." I said, "Actually, I only followed you back because of what's in your bio. His bio was just funny, it made me laugh. So I was like, I'm following that person." Like, I'm like, this guy's a vibe. Like, I think he said like he had his pronouns. It was like he, him. He said he/him/buffting, and I was like, that's funny. So I was like, oh, I'm following back. But it's just like, because that's part of our culture. And I'm like, oh, I can vibe with that. Like, so if it's a girl, like guy, like just whatever, be open to that personality as well. I mean, I think I can see that a bit on like IG and nowadays Twitter a bit, but it has to be managed. I won't necessarily walk through how VC funds work, but I basically ultimately at a high level, if I go back to them, you ultimately need. We assume this is the model. We assume only 10% of the companies we're going to invest in win. We assume that 20% will generate us a profit. An additional 20% will return our money. So if I invest 10K or a million into a company, I know that I expect five. So if it's 10 companies, I expect 5 to fail. So I'm investing all Black founders, so I want them all to win, but and diverse founders. But the numbers say 5 will fail, 2 will return the money, so give you your money back, 2 will make a profit, and then 1, even when you make a profit, you're still at a loss, right? As you can see here, and then even if 2 return your capital, you're at a loss. So we need 1 to win massively for you to get your money. And that's the model we go for when we invest in startups. So sometimes if an investor says no, or matter of fact, let's make it more positive. For an investor to say yes, you have to be able to be the one that returns the capital to them, return the whole fund. So if my fund is £10 million, the equity I get in your business has to be able to become worth £10 million for it to be worth me investing in you. If not, then that's hard, and I won't be able to make the investment no matter how much I like the business. It will be financially irresponsible for me to do so. So when you go to investors, it's worth bearing in mind in your financials and your pitch, like just how big it can become and what the investor and ask them, like how much you invest in, how much do you need me to return to you for your investors. That's important. I also lost like traction, customers, etc., revenue, bad data. I like bad data because I hate surprises. I hate investing in something and then someone's like, oh, I told you I had 100 customers. Well, really, 89 of them were my family. I'll be like, what? Oh, it doesn't make sense. So like, I like, give me the bad data up front. Tell me you only have 11 customers and let me decide. Because we can then go, who are the 11 customers? I know way more of those type of people. Let's reach out to them, or let's get those people sharing. We can work on it, but it's about sharing, being open and transparent. But I'll give you an example of what validation can look like. And again, for validation, I don't need you to go spend any money building some app or some website or service, whatever it is. You can get validation really cheaply and really lightly. And my friends will say like, hey, you should get a t-shirt saying I would invest in a spreadsheet, because I would invest in a spreadsheet, basically. I think validation could be an Instagram page, Twitter page, a text messages, emails, or spreadsheet. And I'll show you an example. So someone I know called Jenny, she's a investor, and she was in a team of an investment firm. And in March 2018, she started an Instagram page called Thing Testing. And all it did was it took AirPods, it took like products, and this is the first post. So at the time, look, 200 people liked it, whatever, right? And I think that's it happened to be 200 now, but when it first started, I followed the page, it was like 50 people who liked it, or 30, 40 people. And it was just, hey, I'm going to do product reviews on this page. So every time I get a product, I'm going to take a picture and review it. That's it. Did that, she kept doing it consistently. And then people started sending her the products sending her their products to review. And eventually the page got to 40,000 followers, and that's more. and people started sending her the products to review. So she said, oh, I was going to charge you. And what she did it all manually. So you DM her on Instagram. She then says, here's my email. Here's my email and my address. Send me your products. I will take pictures. You send me the money and then I'll post. Doing it all manually. Got so big and so popular that she had all this demand that I remember then she left her job in June 2019 last year to do it full time. And everyone in the investment community was like, this is stupid. Why is she leaving her job to do an Instagram page full time? When I've seen it from the beginning. So I was curious. I was like, let's see where this goes. This is like, this is a bit wild, but like, let's see where it goes. This is how things, I like how it's going. She's got some revenue now and she's got some customers that she's posting every 2-3 days. Like, I'm interested. Like, let's hopefully it turns into something big. And then, so she left her job in June 2019. 3 months on August 2019, she gets some investors for the business. Remember, they invested in the Instagram page and they invested for her to turn it into a product review website. So she started with the validation on an Instagram page, which is free. And now it's a website for product to review products. And that comes from doing everything free for a year and a half, right? It's just about consistency. And last few things for me, I guess, with investors, there's what you want to do is before you get investors, you want to be sending them updates every month. You can do it via email or via, some people do it via WhatsApp. I hate WhatsApp updates because respectfully, look, this says fortnightly updates, but people aren't consistent. People will do it every 3 weeks, then do it every month, then do it every week and a half. And I'm just kind of like, it's all over the place. When on the other one, you can see here, the one on the left is, here's my August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. It's very consistent, the same time, around the same time and stuff every single month. And that is consistent. I can manage it. And I'll show you what an update will look like as well. So people like updates. And this is a way to send updates to people who are your investors, people who you want to invest, people who are partners in the business, and just give them an overview of the business. I'll show you what it consists of. So here's a good update. Forget the high numbers and stuff. But ultimately consistent of KPIs, which are key performance indicators. So metrics that you track in your business, which are important to your business, that should hopefully increase every month. Then the next thing will be highlights, what's good about the business, what's gone bad about the business that month, and then ask what you need. And the reason you have what's bad, again, is so that we can see how you progress every month and how you get through as an entrepreneur. And also, maybe we can help with the bad things and we can help solve those problems for you. But here's a good email example. It's nice and clean. It's succinct. I can read it really easily. I can read it probably, I like reading stuff on my phone without being able to scroll. But this, I can scroll a little bit and read the whole thing. And it arrives consistently every single month. So here's a very good example. I'm happy to share this presentation afterwards as well. Last few things. COVID, or I'll say to this, it looks a bit confusing, but just basically create scenario plans. So it's okay to tell investors, hey, because of COVID, we're not sure where it's going. Here's what may happen. Here's 3 different options for where the business may go in the next few months. If COVID were to last an additional 3 months, 6 months, and 9 months to a year, here's how we expect the business to do, and let them take that risk. Because then that means that I'm looking at you as a founder, and I know you've assessed the risk of the market and the climate. And that tells me, oh, this is positive. So you can tell me, we may have no customers, we may have some customers, we'll have no revenue, or we're going to spend no cash for the next few months and just sit out and see what happens because we have to wait instead of us burning cash unnecessarily. So it's good to plan and have different scenarios. I think one of the last few things is someone once sent me, I had a meeting with them, I didn't get back to them, it took me ages, I got all these emails, they kept trying to email me for a meeting to invest in the business. And then what they did one day was send me an industry report. They sent me an email of like, hey, here's some information on the industry and what's happening in the news with the business that we're operating in. And not even their business, just other businesses in their sector. And I was like, oh, this is good. And then it told me that everything they said about the sector growing and the number of customers growing and people interested, this is validated now through the BBC, City AM, The Guardian, Sun, different links. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, let's catch up. And then we caught up with them and I helped them raise some money with some investors. So sometimes sending different types of content just to show that actually what you said about your business is true. It is true. And last 2 things, contacting investors. Here's a good DM I got on Twitter. It's kind of short. It's just, we started this business. I didn't know these people, of course. Here's what the business is. You can find out more about us here. Here's our website. We'd love to send you our pitch deck, which is our presentation on the business, and tell you more about the company. What's the best email? I replied. We had a chat, caught up, and then we made progress. And then Insta DM, here's a good one. And it's just really short again. Don't know this person again. We're at a pivotal moment. We had some investment. We want to pivot, we change the business or not, or continue. We're going to have a half-an-hour chat this week. Need some guidance. I already know what this person needs. A half-an-hour chat. They specified it. I'm like, cool. When it's just like, oh, I'd love to just chat to you, I'm like, about what? They've given me the context about what to chat about. They've told me the time. They said they want it to be this week. I made the time. We made it happen. And then last week, here's a good example of an email to send out if you're looking for investors. Very last thing. Again, forget the numbers. Is of one of my friends' businesses. So you want to send out an email that says, so I sent this email out to loads of investors for my friend who was talking to invest, wanted to meet some investors. And it basically has here's the business. We're looking for X amount, 100K, 200K, 50K. You can view our pitch deck here, which is our presentation. Here's a link to it, or it's attached. Here's one line of what the business does. This person has 3 lines because my friends don't listen. That's fine. And then here's some highlights about the business. Forget the high numbers, but here's some highlights. And this is a good email to send out to investors. Yeah, and I think, so that's an example. Again, I'll share this afterwards. Yeah, that's me. I hope that was a little bit helpful.
Thanks, Andy. That's amazing. Kelly's got some questions for you. She said, what are the top 3 things that make you invest in a company that's just getting up and running pre-seed?
Sure. So pre-seed. So the top 3 things. One is like what you've done. Like you said, just getting going. I want to see that you've the validation piece. I want to see you're talking to customers and that you're sending to customers. I tell people like, what do investors want to see? And I'm like, it's always interesting because you're assuming that you have to optimize your business for investors, when actually what you should be doing is building the business anyway. So what we want to see is you building the business. So I want to see talking to customers, you've got a plan, even if we're focused on the select group of customers for the next 3 to 6 months. We want to just make sure that they're happy, that they're satisfied. We want to very deeply understand whether or not they need us, whether or not they need our problem, our solution, and if not, what it is they need. And we've got a focus group, and I'm on the phone with them every single week, or with like at least 10% of them every week, and I'm going to talk to all of them by the end of the month, and keep that going every single month. And that way, deeply understand the customer before we go out to reach more customers. Or if it's we're growing X% every single week or every single month. I think that's helpful. Yeah, I think that's helpful. I think I want to see. I just want to see that potentially the market's big enough. Again, it's the right fit for myself, but if not, I can introduce you to other people, but other investors. But I just want to see that actually you're committed to this. One thing I like investing in obsessed people. I'm an obsessive, and you have to want to win. And no one's ever succeeded in anything without being obsessed or without just killing it and focusing on this one thing really, really well. So it's exactly book, yeah, commitment, 100%. So commitment, validation, you're doing the work, you're talking to customers to get validation, and I think of course a big market. There has to be something like the business has to be interesting and something different about it. You have to be solving a big problem and actually solving a problem. There's a lot of passion projects out there, which is good, and you can turn those into successes. But I think I have to know what's different about this in the market. Like how are you really solving a problem from other things out there, and what's the potential for this to get to size-wise?
Thanks, Andy. Are there any other questions? Let's see. Kelly, your top question asker today. Is 10 by 10, is it open to specific niche or any founder who's part of a marginalized community based in the UK?
Sure. So 10x10 is early stage. So 10x10 fund launching end of this year is early stage Black founders, those raising anything. So we're investing, I guess, 50 to 150K per company in the fund as an angel investor. At the moment, so I'm investing in diverse founders. That's women, people of color, LGBTQ, disabled immigrant founders, and I've got like a prominent focus on Black founders. I already that someone answered that question. How do you set? The next question is, how do you set KPIs of your potential investors in a win-win conversation, or the founder leading negotiation? So KPIs, again, key performance indicators, which are basically metrics you track in your business. How do you set them? You set them by. So what I want to know from you is, what's the most important thing to your business? For example, if I sold these water bottles and I've just got going, what's important is that, like, if I believe everyone needs this water bottle, the KPI should be probably number of water bottles sold a month, revenue, of course. So like maybe it's like I don't think like certain metrics like average number of water bottles purchased per customer, it are probably not the most important metrics in the early days, because I mean, this is like probably a one-time product. You'd have one, you don't need another water bottle. So so I think the metrics for this would be number of units sold, revenue, and potentially referrals. Who's referred it to someone else? Potentially, if I wanted it to grow. Yeah, like so you set the metrics, and we can come together and say, here's some other metrics we've seen that work really well for this business. If not, that's absolutely fine, and we just go with what you have. Again, you haven't got to have too many metrics. I like 3 to 5 metrics usually, because it helps us focus. And if there's 2 things, if the metrics increase, you do well. So if my revenue, if number of units I've sold increases and my revenue increases, then great. And then if obviously I have repeat customers as well, that's really great. But with a water bottle, it'd probably be referrals, because you probably need several water bottles as a person. Yes. Esther asks, how do you drive customers to the current businesses you have invested in? Will you involve in this process? Yeah, of course. So like, for example, like me personally, if it's Trim It, the Uber for haircuts, big advocate. I'll post about it, I'll share it, I'll tell people about it. I connect them with like 1 or 2 banks to do that, to go and do like corporate contracts for, like, to go and cut everyone's hair at the bank, for example, whatever it is. Consumer side, I promote a lot on, like, say it's on Instagram and different things. I'll just be talking about it, and people hear about it and go and find out. Afrocentrics, I use Afrocentrics every day, the products for Afro and curly hair, and yeah, like, I'm a big advocate for that. I happily do like free, obviously, like, it's not even free promo, I do promo. I don't charge for anything. And I get word, I'll tell everyone about it. I know, I'm like, all the time, like, even Black especially, I'm like, yo, why are you not using, if you've got Afro curly hair, I'm like, you have to be using these products, 100%. So always spreading the word. Retail London, again, always, I'm making sure everyone in Black I know especially has one of these watches. That's really important. And getting customers, I think I sit down with them all the time. I say, like, Tennis, I'm like this extended co-founder. We sit down all the time and we plan everything out, that great detail. How are we acquiring customers, through which channels, how much are we spending there, what are we expected, numbers, what are we expected conversions, and if it's low, what are we going to do to optimize, how are we going to cut off different channels, and then where we're going to spend more of our time, and what the expectations are. How do we get customers to refer to other customers? What do they get as a reward? I want to put all the numbers with them. And again, I've been there as a founder myself, so I understand these things, like, super great detail, of course. And so, because I've been as a founder, like, my founders call me all the time to help with different things. I help with hiring. So I would do, like, first interviews if needed, or I'd find people for them. I'd refer them to them.